What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Necessity Talk Show. Today I have a very, very special guest. We got Worldwide Wednesday, one of the pioneers of the music scene in Lancaster, doing incredible things and just pushing the boundaries of what an artist can do in this city. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Wednesday, go ahead. You can introduce yourself a little bit too.
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Wednesday. I'm a hip hop artist here in Lancaster, born and raised in Lancaster. Been quite some time that I've been in the industry myself and dipping my toes into other things like filmmaking. I just dropped a short film not too long ago that now it's like expanding my brain as a creative. Like, how far can I take this? But moved to Miami at one point in my life. Lived there for 5 years, came back to Lancaster, and now Lancaster is like one of the most creative hubs I've personally seen. And I don't plan on leaving it. I feel like this is always going to be home. Before I left to Miami, I didn't see all this creativeness happening,
Mm-hmm.
So it's very cool to come back home and see how much we've expanded, how open our minds have gotten at this point.
Yeah. Well, explain that. How has Lancaster shown itself to be one of the most creative places?
Yeah, so I guess before I left, it was 2017 that I left to Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit earlier than that, but actually 2015. Before then, I had been just making music as a creative, trying to find outlets, trying to find different creatives that can lead me in the right direction. There was nobody to really give me any handout or advice or this is how you do things.
Mm-hmm.
I also didn't see many people that dressed the way I did. I didn't see many people be as creative as I was at that time. And there wasn't a community of artists or creatives that I could go to and feel like it's home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I felt not only was Miami a move because I went to college out there, but it was also kind of let me open my mind to what's outside of Lancaster. Because it had always been Lancaster from birth all the way up to 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I moved out to Miami and really found that you could be whoever you wanted to. It was almost a fresh start for me because I had been going to high school here. Everybody knows me. It's a smaller town. Me being a creative, I kind of know I'm in the mix with everybody who already does it, which isn't many people at the time. So moving out to Miami kind of expanded that for me and just let me see, okay, there's a lot of people doing this on higher levels. And now I can start networking. Now I can start connecting to the point where throughout the rest of my life, I could always go back to those connections and be like, hey, I have this idea. How can we make it work? Et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, now I come back to Lancaster, it's a whole different story.
Word.
So it's really cool.
What got you into music?
Shoot. Honestly, just messing around, rapping over Lil Wayne's lyrics, literally having a microphone in the booth or in the closet and just hanging it from a hanger and just rapping over, random beats.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was fun. It was what me and my friends were doing. And then I took it to a whole nother level of being in a studio, an actual studio. And that was it was really overwhelming at first because I had never been in a studio.
What made you take that step to go to try it in the studio?
I was just enjoying what I was doing. It was so much fun that I didn't want to stop. And it was, I was always writing things. I was writing poems. I was writing just songs to different beats that I would find on YouTube.
Yeah.
And so I was just writing a lot. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I can take this a little bit further so I got together with a group, and in high school, that group was called IAB, and it stood for It's All Bullshit, because I went to a Catholic school. So as being a white and Puerto Rican person inside a school system that is more religiously defined, it felt like I was constricted in some type of manner. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't dress the way that I wanted to. I always had a uniform on. I had to associate myself with people who are very narrow-minded. No offense to the people there, but it was just I was trying to expand myself, as a creative, and I couldn't fully be myself as a creative in that school setting. So I felt like going into a bigger setting of a studio and working with people who are already doing it, it could expand myself and who I was as an artist.
Heard. When would you say that you started taking music seriously?
I would probably say 21. That's when Worldwide Wednesday even became a thing. That's when Wednesday became my branding, my name, my stage name. So at 21 years old is when after the entire timeline of me becoming a producer, learning how to produce music, becoming an engineer, learning how to engineer music, because that whole beginning part when I was transitioning to being more serious was me just testing things out. So throughout high school, I wrote music, and I got in the booth and I sold CDs, right? After that, there was a lot of feedback that wasn't of the most positive when I was rapping, because I'm just starting out. Obviously, I'm not the best rapper, but also being in a Catholic school where they're like, at that time, music was the weird thing to do, right? So like back then in high school, because I graduated 2012, so from 2009 to 2012 was a time where if you were doing music, you were like a band nerd, or you were like a geek of some sort. You know what I'm saying? So me doing music was already looked at as like, what the hell are you doing? Like, not supposed to be doing that. Like, but anyways, so that whole timeline was like, all right, I don't really feel the most comfortable being the front man right now because I was like getting so much negative feedback. So I took that back man route of being an engineer or being a producer, owning a studio. I owned a studio on Queen Street at like 19 years old, and we were trying to do after school sessions so that kids could come in, record for $10 to $15 an hour. You can't find that. Everywhere was at that time 30, 40 an hour. Now it's 50, 60, 70 an hour. You know what I mean? Inflation. But at that time, we were just trying to cater to the community, like bring in artists that we haven't met yet or are doing the thing that we don't know about. So after learning all of that stuff was when I started transitioning into like, okay, what do I do as an artist? Because I enjoy making music and I don't want to let that go. And at that time was when one of my friends had said, you should make music again. And I was like, nah, like I've received way too much negative feedback in the past and it's not something I'm fully confident in. You know what I mean? And he was like, no, but you're actually nice. It's just you gotta find that confidence. And I was joking around with him. I said, well, if I ever create music again, I'll go by the name Wednesday and I'll drop an album called This Week. Just joking around with him. And I produced a record and I got on it and I released it on SoundCloud, and within like a couple of weeks, it got over 11,000 views. And I was like, wait, like people actually enjoy what I'm doing, and me being a creative can work. I can be who I am or who I want to be. And that was kind of that creative shift. You know what I mean? Where everything started being more serious, and that it showed me like I could do this. So Wednesday almost is this like more confident version of who I was in the past, and now I've transitioned into Wednesday, the artist, the hip hop artist. You know what I mean? So
from what you told me, it sounds like you've always been kind of business minded. What would you say sparked that like business mindset within you?
That's a good question. I would say my dad. He was, he went to Lancaster Catholic as well, so he went to the same high school I did, but he never graduated from high school. So he was always, working on making sure that me and my sister was good, making sure that, the bills were paid, we could eat, all that kind of stuff. So he didn't really he went right into working because he had a kid at 14 years old. So I'm sure at that age, I wouldn't know it, but you have a lot of responsibility. You have to grow up really fast. So seeing him growing up, transition from always working for somebody else and him starting up his own business and it working, that's what kind of turned the knob in my head. Like granted, he went back to get his GED at like 35. He didn't graduate high school, but yet he's still able to set this business up for himself. How? You know what I mean? That went so against like all of our thinking. Like, how do you do that? But the fact that he did it just put more motivation and fire in myself to be like, yeah, I could do this too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think it was my pops that really inspired that.
Shifting gears a little bit, what made you come up with the concept to create the ripple effect?
So when I lived in Miami, I worked for a radio station. There were 7 different radio stations that I did some marketing and promotions for. I would set up events. I would go out to the events. I would promote for them. Be like, yo, listen to our radio station, hand out t-shirts, swag bags, all that kind of stuff. So I was already in the promotions area and the event area where I was setting up events for the radio station. But one of the things that I noticed, even before that really, was that, you know, throughout high school, as I told you, I wasn't very accepted as an artist.
Mhm.
So anytime I wanted to perform or showcase my skills, they just were like didn't answer my emails, didn't answer my texts, or like just flat out said no.
Mhm.
So for me, it was like, okay, well, where can I have a safe space for me to perform my stuff? I'm tired of hearing no all the time.
Mhm.
So I need to be able to create something where it's mine and nobody can really tell me no. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that was the first idea of just having the showcase. So I worked for the radio station. I interned as a marketing intern at a venue, one of the biggest venues down in South Florida. It's called Revolution Live.
Okay.
It sits in Fort Lauderdale, right in the middle of the city, downtown Fort Lauderdale. So when I interned for them, my boss was like, well, you're an artist. Why don't you put on a showcase? And I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, this venue is a 1,200 plus venue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
like, they have big ass shows.
Yeah.
All of your favorite artists have stopped there on a tour stop. So I'm like, all right, I'm down right away for sure. Then I was like, how do I set up a showcase? Like, how is this? So what I did was go on Reverb Nation, because that was the popping thing at the time.
Okay.
And I just searched the area, Fort Lauderdale artists, whatever. So all these artists came up. I just emailed each artist and like, hey, I'm having a showcase. Would love for you to perform on the showcases at Revolution Live, et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
The first showcase that I threw was 50 people. And this is a 1,200 person venue.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, and a lot of work to be done.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Going back to the radio station, I'm working at the radio station. I'm like, these events they're missing something.
Mhm.
And the thing that they were missing is the heart behind it. Then obviously the radio station is corporate, so they want to make money.
Mhm.
The first thing is money on their mind. But when we're working for corporate, making $10 an hour setting up these events, I'm thinking the artist has to be taken care of,
Mhm.
right? Because I'm an artist, I would want to be taken care of.
Mhm.
Making sure the show goes on time was our job. Making sure that the show is set up the right way was
Mhm.
our job. We've set up big festivals, Chili Cook-Off being one of them, which was a country music festival, Riptide Music Festival, which was another music festival that all of us ran at the end of the day.
Mhm.
They set it up financially, but we were the ones that actually run it.
Yeah.
So we were taking artists from backstage to the stage. We were the ones making sure everyone was on time and everything was on time.
Mhm.
So me learning all this stuff throughout these festivals, I'm like, 2 and 2. I just interned over here. I have a venue that I could throw a showcase. I'm learning how to throw events by a radio station and corporate.
Mhm.
So why would I not bring those things together to be able to put on for creatives?
Mhm.
Because creatives, a lot of the time, especially down in South Florida, they didn't have a space as big as Revolution Live
Yeah.
to be able to perform and showcase themselves.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So the goal has always been from the beginning, for the artist by the artist, right? Because
Yeah.
we are the artist. We know what the artist wants. We want to make sure you're taken care of in a way that nobody has ever taken care of you.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Money, cool. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You can get paid to do X, Y, and Z, but the point is, let's create this community, this cohort of artists that support each other, build each other up, and really push the mission forward for independency. You know what I'm saying? So that's really the point of Ripple Effect.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's a dope story. Shifting gears again. What made you come up with the idea to make a short film, and how did that push you as an artist in that area?
Yeah. Filmmaking was brand new to me. I'm not even gonna lie. Like,
Mhm.
it was a whole new scene. Me being in front of the camera, the way that I was in front of the camera felt very awkward at first. Like,
Mhm.
it felt like almost imposter syndrome, because I never expected to be an actor of any sort,
Yeah.
or, you know, having to deal with all the behind the scenes of the filmmaking process.
And sorry to cut you off again.
Yeah.
You wrote and directed it as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, along with my team though, not
Mhm.
by myself. So like I said, I was very new to the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the Gemini Saga started off as an EP, and this EP just encapsulated who I was as an artist versus who I am as like a human being too,
Mhm.
dealing with those tugs and pulls with real life
Mhm.
while still trying to maintain the dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the Gemini Saga was already based off of that as like an artist.
Mhm.
So me pushing forward, I had this idea first to do a totally separate project for a song that I had released. And then after talking to who directed it and who shot it,
Mhm.
and all the editors, I was talking to Dak Media Dak, who is a long-standing videographer of mine, like my homie, my dog. And I talked to him about this idea. I'm like, yo, like, I would love to kind of break down the EP in 3 different sections so that we can, highlight each record, but through a visual art piece. And he's like, yo, that's a dope idea, So we started talking about ideas. Then it started growing and we started getting more people involved, like a group think almost. And then all of a sudden it like snowballed into the short film. And I'm like, how'd we get here?
Yeah.
Like it's weird how it came about because I didn't plan for it to be a short film.
Yeah. It
was like a quick video of like a breakdown of all 3 songs. And now we have like a script. We have days, like shoot days. We have shot lists. I'm just like, this is brand new for me. So I'm like, wow, y'all do a lot of work, bro. Like filmmakers like yourself, bro. Y'all do a lot of work and it's not always credited. People don't understand how much work y'all really put in. So seeing that for myself just made me respect the film industry and filmmakers as a whole because I had no knowledge of it before this. So that's how it came about. That's how it came about.
I'm sure you were happy with like the end results of it.
Yeah, man. It took a good amount of time to be edited, color graded, make sure all the sound design is good. I went through a lot of steps, but we're here, a year later.
Yeah.
And granted, between that year, we all had our own life going on. So it was like just being stretched out more and more. But I didn't want to rush anybody because I feel, and I'm sure you can relate to this, as a filmmaker, you want to take your time with a project and really put your all into it.
Yeah.
So as an artist, we're always expecting, yo, when's it done?
Yeah.
Yo, when's it done? So I didn't want to be that artist.
Yeah.
I wanted the filmmakers to have the entire play field and make sure that whatever they put down, just like an artist, whatever I put down in the booth, that it's thought about.
Yeah.
It has purpose and intention behind it. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
The Gemini saga was very purposeful, very intentional, very branded, very like just well thought up. And that goes out to Media Dak, that goes out to Yasin Perez, that goes out to Drew.
Yeah.
All these people have these creative minds that just made it turn up a whole notch.
And I watched your short film. It was very good. And I really liked how you put on and kind of displayed the city. Was that intentional?
Yeah, for the most part. So the story behind it was me going out to the picnic, right? So that was the basis of it. But going through the city and going out to the field, that's what Lancaster is about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All of a sudden you can go through a city and then all of a sudden you could be in a whole field. And I don't think people really know that unless you live in Lancaster or you visit Lancaster in that type of way. Most people will go out to the Amish country and just check out, if they're visitors, go out and check out like what the Amish has, but not even know that we have such a creative city.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or people who come into the city are like, oh yeah, I heard that the Amish are around. They never go to check out the fields and like how much production goes on out there. So like to encapsulate that, like just was really intentional too.
Yeah. And I thought that was really cool about the film as well. Yeah.
Appreciate that, bro.
Of course.
Yeah.
What are your biggest musical inspirations?
That's a good question, man. I just feel like I'm inspired by life. Like I don't really like to say too many artists themselves. It's such a weird question for me. I don't know. Because I don't really see anybody who's like up here where I'm like, oh, they do such great work. I want to be just like them. I have favorite artists, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like Bryson Tiller, I really enjoy Bryson Tiller. I love like the stories that he captures in his music and can really like give it to where you could relate. So I really love that. Obviously I enjoy Drake because of just his writing skills and how much thought he puts into everything that he does.
Yeah.
But I'm more of like a melodic hip hop rapper. You know what I mean? Like I'm just like a bouncy hip hop artist. So I feel like I've really been inspired throughout my life of just listening to hip hop music in general to come to who I am now. Is
there a place that music has taken you that you wouldn't have expected it to take you?
Too many places, bro. Too many. I mean, look at me. I'm in the schools right now. Like, I didn't sign up to be no teacher, bro. I didn't sign up to be a teacher, but like, here I am educating kids and like, it's really just off my experiences. It's not, I don't have to go to college to know how to tell my life story. Yeah. You know what I mean? So some would say it was speaking, motivational speaking or like speaking in some sort of sense. Some would say it's educating. you know? But really, when I walk through those doors, it's just me creating with the kids. Like, I don't think of it as, oh, I'm teaching these kids something.
Yeah.
I think of it like I'm offering an opportunity that I've never had as a kid. When I'm growing up, I had nobody to help me out and say, hey, come in the studio, check it out. You know what I mean? I got in the studio because I had to find an engineer, and then I had to pay the engineer. Yeah. These kids don't have to pay anything.
Yeah.
There's a studio there for them. They don't have to pay anything.
And how did you get into that?
It's such a long story, but honestly, like over these past 2 years, what I've cultivated in the city coming back is just community. Yeah. And that's really like my goal and intention coming back to Lancaster. Before I left Miami to come back to Lancaster, I felt like a failure. I'm going to be honest with you. I felt like a failure because I didn't think that I finished my story out in Miami. I didn't think that I wrapped up all the loose ends that I kind of just got up and left because the pandemic hit, my lease was up. I didn't really have anyone to live with. Everyone was going their separate ways. And I'm like, holy shit, life is hitting me fast and I got to figure it out. And mind you, I was out there for 5 years. So the only time I would see my family was for a week here, maybe Christmas, come back for Thanksgiving 1 year. So it was like very quick times that I would see my family other than being on the phone. So, you know, fast forward to the time I left, I prayed a lot about it. I really, really like just sat with myself and said, okay, if I come back to Lancaster, what will I do to cultivate who I want to be in my future? You know what I mean? I don't want to come back home and just sit around and figure it out. I don't want to feel that way. Yeah. So let me figure it out before I even move, right? So my goal the entire time, kind of in 2020, it was like probably June, July 2020. I was like, okay, once I leave here, I'm going to come back to the city, but I want to make an impact on my city. I want to get involved with the board. I want to get involved with the city itself, and go back to these schools and really like tell my story and also be able to impact the kids on learning because we don't see kids learn as much through the books as we had to when we were in high school or in elementary school. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now it's like they're trying to find a new way to get to the kids, a new language, because there's such like a friction between teachers and kids. Yeah, because it's like all the new technology and stuff, people are just learning different. You know? Facts. And that's like a really big transitional moment for teaching as a whole, right? Yeah. Because we're always taught to teach by the books, and now we have this curriculum that like turn to page 54, whatever. But like now, I just did a program where I went into Wharton Middle School and I taught poetry through hip hop. And that was so successful. The teacher was so happy about it and wants us to come back. That was so successful that now the kids, whenever they see us out, they're like thinking that we're the craziest person ever. Yeah. Which is nuts because we've impacted them on such a level that they feel like we are the craziest person ever. Yeah. That we're this big celebrity. But like, we're just sharing our experiences. But that's the beautiful part is that when you can share your experience, impact the kids, and then see as they grow, that impact come to fruition, and then them being confident, them just like really pushing forward with themselves and their dreams at such a young age, it's like crazy to see because I never had that. Yeah, so that's why it impacts me. I never had that. What would you say drives you as an artist? Definitely one is these kids, man. Like just seeing and providing opportunity for these kids. Second is standing up for creatives as a whole, right? So my whole purpose and intention with being an artist in general is to push the artistry note forward, right? So it's fight for the creatives, fight for our rights to have what we're supposed to have and the right amount of what we're supposed to have. And I'm just adding my piece to the pie. You know what I mean? I'm just adding my piece to this legacy, this full out change in the industry that we're seeing right now, where like everyone's fighting for their masters. Everybody is like independent, building up their empires by themselves off the resources that they have. Like I want to add my piece to that. Yeah. So Ripple Effect, Worldwide Wednesday, that is what I encapsulate, is pushing forward the creative. Yeah. So you backtracking just a little bit. You said that you had opened up a studio at 19. Yeah, yo. What were some of the challenges that you found within doing that? And what did you learn from that experience of having a studio at like kind of a young age that people wouldn't expect? Yeah, at 19, I was brand new to like owning businesses or like getting a loan out in general and figuring out how that all works. Um, I always had a studio in my basement, so I already knew how to like record people. I already knew all the ins and outs of that. But actually hosting a studio and like having a business behind it was something that was brand new to me. So I had business partners at the time. It was 4 of us all together because like we're all new to it. You know what I mean? We're still figuring out the ropes. So we had 2 engineers. We had an accountant, my homie Kif, who like is really good with numbers and just business in general, and then me, of course. So just starting that up in general, I remember figuring out what a loan was and how to go and get a loan and like what co-signers are because I needed a co-signer. I was 19. I didn't have any credit. I didn't have anything to back me up or a job that looked good enough to be on paper. You know what I mean? So I was lucky enough to be able to get my aunt to co-sign a loan for me. You know what I mean? It was a $5,000 loan. It's not that much, but that really helped us get all the equipment that we needed. So once we got that equipment, I also had my pops who owns his own company doing general contracting and knows the ins and outs of like how to design things, design the studio. And me and him like worked at the studio designing it for the next 3 months, 4 months, and making sure that everything was good from the flooring to making sure the insulation was in there, making sure the soundproofing and building another booth. There was just a lot of moving parts with it. So painting the studio, like we're in there late night painting the studio and shit. So like from that experience, I learned so much. Yeah. That was my first experience having a business in general. So since that moment, now I carry all those lessons and like I'm like, okay, now I understand how to set this up. And
what would you say is the biggest lesson that you've taken away from that experience?
That experience, don't get in business with friends. Don't get in business with friends. And like a lot of people say, you know what I mean? But like obviously, if you're my homie, I want you to eat too. Yeah. But sometimes just knowing and making sure that they're on the same mindset and same path as you, that's really important if you're going to get into business with friends. Because sometimes when maybe it's not doing the best, maybe the business isn't doing the best, or maybe the business is doing really, really well. Then that's when like the feelings and emotions come into play. Like, this isn't worth it. Or I'm trying to really eat from this. Like, I'm going to take a couple dollars, whatever. You know what I mean? You just have to make sure that whoever you go into business with has that same passion and that same mindset as you. So that was probably my biggest lesson.
What would you say is some advice that you would give to somebody who's starting out as an artist or starting out when they want to start their career as an artist? What advice would you give to someone like that?
Honestly, obviously create, right? You're already creating. That's why you want to be an artist. So it's not so much on that. Keep creating. The business, I'm assuming is what you're kind of talking about, or just an artist in general?
Yeah, both. You can go into both.
So creativeness, just keep creating, stay inspired, stay creative, right? But to build the brand that you want to build up, because that's really what it is nowadays. You know, like people don't really get big off of music anymore. It's like who you are as an artist. People enjoy personalities. So to build up you and yourself and to like really be known, pop out to events, bro. Like that's like the easiest thing that I could say. Look up what events are happening around your area and then go out to them. Meet people, network, because at the end of the day, network is net worth. And I know we have all heard that before. And it's so true. It's so true. I could call up people that I met 6 years ago and still be able to say, hey, like I got this idea. What if we put this into action, cut you a slice of the pie, and let's make it work? Or like the people I met 6 years ago are in such a different space right now that like they might be out of here, but they still keep in contact because 6 years ago you just built that relationship up. You know what I mean? So you have the advantage to be able to work with people over the span of the next 10 years if you build relationships with them. So go out to these events, network with people, connect. That is the most important thing as an artist. Thank you so much, Wednesday. That was a great interview. I appreciate you being here.
And yeah, go ahead, shout yourself out. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. Worldwide Wednesday on everything. And yeah, I'll definitely be active this year. Lots of events to come, ripple effect events to come. We have a film fest coming up June 27th, so we gotta get you in there.
Definitely.
Mr. Filmmaker himself. And we have a women's event on April 29th down in Florida. We got a lot coming down the pipeline. I also have a new project I'm gonna be releasing called After Midnight. It's the first time that I had said anything to anyone.
Word.
So I just wanted to drop it on here, you know what I'm saying? So After Midnight, you know what I'm saying, coming out first quarter, some point. I don't have a date yet, but it's coming.
Check it out. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Thank
much love,
you,
bro.
Appreciate it.
Much love.